Studio now is a data scientist, Adeyemi Odeneye, who will be comparing the new minimum wage being proposed by Labour with that of 5 other African countries. This, of course, and their GDPs. Over to you now, Adeyemi.
The minimum wage being compared across 5 neighboring countries. Nigeria, which is $50, Guinea, $150, Cameroon, $68, Benin, $1,202, Ghana, $57, and Niger, $114. And this shows that among these countries, Nigeria gives the least minimum wage. But now let's look at the annual GDP. Okay, looking at 2017 annual GDP across these 5 neighboring countries, Nigeria inclusive, we have $330 billion from Nigeria. That's a big amount compared to that's the highest compared to other neighboring countries. Like Guinea, we have $10 billion, Cameroon, which is $35 billion, Benin, $9.3 billion, Ghana, $47 billion, and Niger, $7 billion. We could also go deep down by looking at the GDP per capita. So in terms of the per capita, we also have Nigeria topping the chart, which is Nigeria has $1,991 billion for GDP per capita, as against Guinea, which is 786, and Cameroon 1455, Benin 832, and Ghana 1630, Niger $377 billion. The implication of this says that the GDP per capita for Nigeria appears to be very, very large compared to other neighboring countries, which means that by implication of the statistics can actually afford the minimum wage. But the reality is this, what is the consequence of this increase in the minimum wage if it's been implemented?
Okay, so from your analysis, Nigeria has the lowest minimum wage per capita, but our annual gross domestic product is the highest, just as our GDP per capita. How do we relate that? Why is it so that we have the least minimum wage, yet our GDP and our GDP per capita is higher than the others?
Yeah, if you look at the GDP per capita, like you said, now Nigeria has the highest compared to the others. This could also be because Nigeria also has more expenditure compared to other countries. Okay. Nigeria's expenditure over 2017 goes about over $300 billion, so which is compared. And also, in terms of the population, so Nigeria has got the highest population compared to other neighboring countries.
All right, but this is my understanding. I mean, Benin, Niger, and all the other African countries, that's Cameroon and Guinea, are not as developed as Nigeria, yet gives their worker much higher than under the current minimum wage, which is 18,000 naira. I mean, how do you understand that?
I think this is one of informs the argument behind the NLC and other trade unions trying to fight for the increase in the minimum wage. That's a kind of empirical justification for that. But I mean, looking beyond these figures, looking at the IGR among states, I'm talking of internally generated revenue among states in other parts of the country, and also looking at the expenses. It may not be the financial capacity of some states may not be able to afford the minimum wage. Because currently across some states, at the present minimum wage of 18,000 naira, some states are still finding it difficult to make the payment of the salaries.
In other words, walk us through this. What will our purchasing power be like?
Okay, generally, if you look at the consumer price index, for instance, for Nigeria, it is about 11.84% as of 2017, which means that the general price of consumer goods at that point in time. So one of the effects is the increase could likely give a cyclical inflation, and which will be initially at the 30%, at the 30,000 increase, there could be higher purchasing power, but over time, due to more purchases driving the consumer goods, this could lead into inflation over time.
What lessons do we learn from all this? I mean, what lessons can the Nigerian system learn from a country like Benin, where the average worker earns more than $1,000, Yemi?
I think one of the take-homes we can actually learn is to be able to strike a balance between the infrastructure, strike a balance between the workforce, and also strike a balance between the amenities being provided by the government.
In terms of GDP and GDP per capita, will there really be much of a difference if this new minimum wage is implemented at 30,000 naira, considering that we know that all other prices will increase after that? Stocks in the market will increase prices. The cost of fuel will increase. The cost of power will increase. The cost of virtually everything will increase if this minimum wage is increased.
Yeah, technically, this will increase the overall annual GDP, which will also increase GDP per capita.
Which is a plus for the economy.
Yes,
right?
But on the contrary, it's what we're looking at, the purchasing power of the Nigerians, that is just it, or the purchasing power at 30,000 naira minimum wage. Because the multiplier effect of the increase in consumer goods will swallow the difference in wages being offered to the average consumer.
Okay. So it really won't do much of a difference. It won't make much of a difference.
Under the current, what we have now as a Nigerian, as a state. But then, let's look at, what tough measures the government must take now under this, in your kind of professional opinion, what measures must be taken if and when the government and Labour finally agrees on the 30,000 naira minimum wage? What do you expect will happen? Do you foresee something like a cut in Labour across the country?
That's the natural consequence, because small businesses, MSMEs, may not be able to afford the new increase in minimum wage, and also government parastatals may not be able to pay. So there will be kind of retrenchment, and employers will not be willing to employ more labor. On the other hand, possibly more qualified people would get more jobs compared, but definitely there will be an increase in unemployment rate.
Well, it really is sad that at 30,000 naira minimum wage, that's an equivalent of $83.
Yeah.
In 1981, we had 125 naira at $250 as minimum wage. Let's just hope that this 30,000, the Labour and government are able to come to an agreement.
Thank you.
Adeyemi Odeneye, data scientist, thank you for joining us on TVC News Hour.
Thank you very much.